Okay, so here's how to tutorial how to do a film strip. I had the picture up, and I don't know more. But if you want to make a film strip that has three different pictures, now you can make this all the same picture. That would be very easy. I wanted to do one where we could stop it, and then stop it at different points. Now this is kind of a bad example because it's cutting off her face. But in the real world, you can position your camera to how you want this. So I'm going to show you how to make all this, which is actually pretty easy. So we're going to move pretty quick. So this is actually my third time doing this today because my computer just don't like me. So I'm going to move through this a little quicker. Okay, so we're going to start off with a blank one. What we're going to do first is, with the way we're doing this, and I'm going to show you why later, we're going to create three render targets. This will give us a little bit more control over if we want to do individual things to each camera later on. So what we're going to do is going to add one render target, and we're going to make this easier on ourselves. So come in here right away, and then choose device camera texture for the input. And then we're going to rename this cam1. The reason why we're doing this like this is because we have to duplicate this 2 more times, so we end up with 3 of them. So now if we duplicate it, I don't even have to rename it. I mean, I could, but I mean, it says 2 and 3, so I can easily discern that. Okay, so now that we have that, we got to do the same thing with cameras. Now we're going to leave this camera alone, and there's a reason for that, and mostly, if I'll show you later, it'll make sense later. So we're going to add camera, and then again, we're going to rename this camera 1, and then we're going to change the render target to render target for cam 1. And then we're just going to duplicate, and again, if we want me to do it like this, I might actually rename these camera 2, and then we do have to change this to camera 2, and then do it one more time, duplicate. So let's rename it camera 3, and then change this to cam 3. Okay, so that's all set up. So now all we have to do, I'm going to drop in a background, just a random background. Let's just do, okay. So what we're going to do now is first is we're going to add a screen image. And this is going to be for the background. So I'm going to come in here and choose the black square we just added. So that's a background, but now we want it to stretch. So now this will be our background. And we don't have to do nothing else with this. But what we want to do now is duplicate this, and then this one, let's rename it to cam1, and we're going to change the texture of cam1 to cam1 render target. So see, now we get this, but it's taking up the full screen. So what we have to do is come down here to stretch mode, put this to fill and cut, and then make it to the size we want. Let's see, we don't want it all the way to the border, so maybe like that. Looking like a Brady Bunch thing. Alright, so then we have that, and this isn't necessarily the size, you'll have to play with that, but for the sake of this you get the idea. So there's cam 2, so let's move this down, and then we have to change this to our second render target, cam 2, and then duplicate time, and let's move it down, and then again, change this to cam 3. So now we have all three of these, and you can adjust the size of these to however you see fit. But and it's going to make I should edit this out, and I'm not going to. I cannot talk. Oh, what did I just do? I just did something. Oh, okay, so I dropped it when I was moving and ranting, so I'll put it back in there and bring it down. So obviously, as you can see, things go in order from top to bottom. So whatever's on the bottom is actually on the top that you see. So maybe you learned something out of me screwing up, hopefully. I don't know. But anyways, you don't want these overlapping because they're actually going to be used for where we want to touch. And so we don't have to do any scripting, but what we're going to do is we're going to bring in the, if my mouse would cooperate with me, behavior script. There we go. So leave this stuff, and then we want a touch event, and we want a tap event, but where do we want it to touch? So see, we're going to first choose cam1. So cam1, and then when we touch cam1, what we want it to do, because to freeze a frame, all you have to do is disable a camera. See, and it froze. So that's all you have to do to freeze a frame. So we want to do, oops. So we're going to come down here in the response type, we want set enabled. And then for the target, we're going to choose our billboard, our screen image. It used to be called billboard, now it's screen image, that this is on. So we're going to go over here, and we're going to choose cam 1. And then we don't want enable or disable, let's do toggle. Because then with toggle, hopefully you can see this. Oh, whoops. Wow, it just went away. What happened? Okay. Okay, you just got to forgive me. This is literally the third time I've done this today, and I did it flawlessly the first 2 times. So I set it to enable and disable the billboard, and now there's nothing left to touch because I disabled it. This is supposed to, okay, the target is supposed to turn off the camera right here. This is what we actually wanted to turn off, not the billboard. So we gotta go back here and choose camera 1. There we go. Now it's working. So now all we have to do is just copy, paste, and then we just have to change this to camera 2, or cam 2, and then change this to camera 2. And then if you see here, now when I click that, it freezes. And again, just minimize that, and then since we already copied it, let's just repaste it. Choose 3, cam 3, and then camera 3, and then just test it, and there you go. So now this is, you can click each one to stop it, and you can get like a little film strip. Say like, oh, see, that's a bad example, but you know, you get the idea. So the reason for these separate cameras, you could have did this if you didn't want it to freeze and just have 3 images constantly going. You could have just put screen images and simply change this to device camera texture, but then you wouldn't be able to freeze them. So by doing this way, I was able to freeze them. Now here's a couple little tips. If you want to add an effect where overall for everything, so let's add the instant photo. It's going to go right here in our default camera that we haven't been using. But since it's on the default camera, and since we didn't change the layers of any of the stuff, it applies to everything. Now, we have this affecting everything. And also, if you wanted to affect this one, all you have to do is also just come in here and check out default layer 2, I think. Yep. So see, now it actually affects even whatever background you have on there. But say I want let's do analog TV. I only want this on one specific camera. Well, see, it dumped it in our default camera, which is fine. But what we're going to do is let's put it on camera 1. Let's do 2 since that's in the middle. But what we have to do is, see, it's still affecting everything. We have to change the layer. So first we have to put this on its own layer. So we're going to put cam 2 and then change that. Now if you want to keep the instant photo look we did to this one, you can also keep default layer selected on the camera. But the trick is going to be, like for this, is we want analog TV to only be on cam 2. Because see, now it doesn't affect this one or this one. It only affects the middle one, which is what we wanted. And so what I can do is I'll bump this like out of proportion so it's really obvious. So see, it's literally, oh wow, that's bad. And so literally anything you want to do, you can do to individual ones. So say I want to do, let's make one derpy. So I'm going to take my face stretch, I'm going to put it on camera 1. And again, with camera 1, we're going to need a new layer. So let's add, I keep forgetting it. Well, let me rename it when I add it, cam 1. And then we're going to keep the instant photo look. So we're going to keep default selected, but we also want to choose cam 1 on the camera. And then on face stretch, we got to change this to purely cam 1. And then let's see, let's just do something very terrible really quickly. Dude, beautiful. And you know, there's actually a couple effects you could actually do. Like you're starting to see, like, you know, maybe you could cut this part just to the top of the head, the middle, and the bottom. But you know, a lot of things you can do. And I'm going to make this project. This project's going to be available. I'll put a link in the description of the video here. if you don't want to do it from scratch. That's pretty much it. So I mean, you get the idea that there's a lot you can do with this. The only thing you could do if you wanted to is put some text. Now this text, I mean, we can put whatever we want, but we can also put dynamic text. So we could put display name. I was looking for username. So display name. So let's see, let's drop this towards the bottom, and then you can change the font down here, and you can actually import fonts if you want, but there's quite a few in here, so we're just going to use one of these. So we can put that there, put date, time, like you can actually put a whole bunch of stuff, altitude, like just in case that you ever, whatever reason would need that, city, date, all this stuff you can. This is all dynamic. So if you put the weather, it's going to show your weather, not just weather. And let's see if we can simulate it. I don't know if no, it still just says snap user. But hopefully this helps.